Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. I don't think I've ever started a video before by immediately sharing with you a clip of something the Russians said. But you need to see this. This clip was translated by Igor Sushko with Wind of Change, and it's of a Russian commander giving a pep talk to his soldiers before sending them into combat. They're about to go on a meat assault that this Russian commander knows is going to fail. So this is what he decided to tell his own soldiers. All of you will die, but know one thing. Mother Russia will never forget us. Flowers will be brought to all of our headstones for centuries. Every warrior's name will be carved into memorial plaques. Eternal flames will be lit for all of us. I don't know if in Russian culture this is motivating for a commander to tell you you're going to die moments before charging onto the battlefield. I don't find that motivating. If you think this clip was mistranslated, I'll put the YouTube video down below. If you speak Russian, you can hear it for yourself. But let's investigate these claims. Memorial plaques, flowers at our headstones for centuries, and an eternal flame. It reminded me of this clip from last year in which a 5th grader went to the eternal flame for the veterans of World War II and extinguished the eternal flame. He put a fire extinguisher in the pits. Eventually, the canister burst and the flame was extinguished. But I want to reference for you guys one of my favorite Wikipedia pages now. List of wars involving Russia. On Kremlin State TV, they have the audacity to say that Russia in their entire history has never attacked anyone. When you don't become geographically the largest country in the world, unless you've attacked quite a few people. I don't think many people in Eastern Europe and Central Asia voluntarily wanted to join the Russian Empire or live in the Russian Federation today. So I'm still scrolling through all the wars that Russia has been involved with. You know, more or less they started half of them and other major powers started the other half. But I want to investigate this claim that if you're a Russian soldier dying for Russia, you'll be remembered forever. How many Russians have died in all of these wars? And nobody remembers them. Nobody cares. And case in point, we can go to 1940, the Winter War. This wasn't that long ago. And Joseph Stalin decided to invade Finland. Finland had belonged to the Russian Empire. When the Russian Empire collapsed in 1918, Finland declared its independence. And the Russians, under the Soviet Union flag, invaded Finland, and they took around 150,000 dead and missing. They performed terribly, which is part of the reason that Hitler felt confident attacking the Soviet Union. Does anyone in Russia remember the sacrifice of these Russian soldiers? Where's their eternal flame? Where's their memorial plaques? Where's their flowers being left at their headstones? What about World War I? 1.8 million Russians died in World War I. And Russia today pretends like this war never even happened. They don't even talk about it. So maybe you're saying, Jake, that's ancient history. This war is different. This is the defining war of the modern Russian Federation. And the warriors dying on the battlefield today will be remembered for centuries. I've got bad news for you. Russians have been dying in this war for 2 years now. And Prigozhin decided to memorialize them by building these cemeteries for Russian soldiers who died, taking the city of Bakhmut. Sure, they were mercenaries under the Wagner flag, but they were still Russian citizens fighting for Russia. And as soon as Putin assassinated Prigozhin, shot down his plane and killed him, Within 48 hours, they paved over this cemetery of Russian heroes who captured the city of Bakhmut over a year ago. No eternal flame, no memorial plaque, all the flowers are being destroyed. It's a strip club parking lot now. But let's keep going, because we get these clips every single week. Family members of soldiers still in Russia, desperate to learn about the fate of their loved ones. Here's another clip of Russian wives and mothers begging the government for information about their sons and husbands. I appeal on behalf of mothers, wives, sisters, with a request to answer the question, where have our children, brothers, husbands gone? We received an answer from the military unit that they had been missing since June 30th, although in July they were carrying out combat missions. We do not know what happened to them, where they went, who to look for an answer, and who can give us official documents that will have legal force, not just empty runaround replies. Who should we turn for these papers? Indeed, the foundations are not authorized, they provide only advisory assistance. So the loved ones of these Russian women are probably all dead. They haven't been heard from in 9 months. But they don't seem too upset at losing their sons and husbands. They just want proper documentation so they can collect death benefits. This, in a nutshell, is the entire Russian war machine. So when we check in on the military map, we do have good news. The Russians haven't been able to advance in the last 4 days towards this road. You can see on the map, Pokrovsk, city of about 60,000, is connected to Chasiv Yar by this highway. This is what the Russians desperately wanted to get to before resupply could come from the west. They were making pretty decent progress the last month, but I do think artillery shells and drones and reserves have reached the front, and Ukraine is finally starting to stabilize. It doesn't mean that Russia isn't going to continue making progress. You can just look at, defenders maybe in this area surrounded on 3 sides. It makes sense to pull back a couple tree lines, so Russia probably will even out the front. But I don't think they're going to make it to this road anytime soon. I also guarantee they're not taking Chasiv Yar in the next 4 days, so Putin's going to be disappointed leading up to the May 9th parade. Russia claims to have downed ATACMS over Crimea. This is what the Russian MOD is going to do. Every day they're going to announce they successfully shot down 30, 50, 100 ATACMS missiles. When you're lying and all the stats are made up, you might as well go big. But we know that the ATACMS strike last week on this training facility in Luhansk, it's estimated 100 casualties. Over 100 Russian troops killed in ATACMS strike, footage shows. I can't find any pictures or videos of the Russians on the ground, but this is what the intelligence is saying. So last week, Ukraine did launch 4 ATACMS at this training site. They were not intercepted, but one of the ATACMS was a dud and actually didn't go off. I do think that some of the ATACMS that the United States is giving Ukraine are expired. They're past their recommended service life. So a failure rate of about 25% is better than nothing. But here's the report from Politico. Production surge eases Pentagon worries about sending long-range missiles to Ukraine. So the contractor who makes these missiles is Lockheed Martin. And I think one of the reasons there was such hesitation from the United States to provide ATACMS for so long is we weren't domestically producing any new ones. We had several thousand in reserve, but Lockheed Martin didn't have a factory making new ones. This has changed. Lockheed gets contract to build early capability PrSM missiles. So this article is from October of last year. So the United States every month is making as many of these next generation PrSM missiles as they can. And given that Lockheed Martin has had a timetable of 2 years now to figure this out, I do think defense production of these PrSM missiles is a top priority. So every month, as the United States produces newer, better, next-generation missiles, the ATACMS that were built in the 80s and 90s will be sent to Ukraine for as long as Russia continues this war. We got more good news. Ukrainian Special Ops destroys another Russian Buk anti-aircraft missile launcher. These air defense systems are priority number 1, so ATACMS are more successful in the future, and it's safe in the skies for F-16s once they show up next month. There is a video online. I'll link it down below if you want to see it for yourself. This is what the Ukrainian loitering drone looks like that is currently hunting these air defense systems. Ukrainian forces shoot down another Russian Su-25 jet in the Donetsk Oblast. President Zelensky himself confirmed this and wanted to thank the defenders that got it. I want to give a special shout out to the warriors of the 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade for shooting down yet another Russian Su-25 in the Donetsk region. Well done, guys. Today I express my gratitude to all soldiers on the front lines, on combat missions, and at battle posts, to everyone who, despite the intense Russian pressure and all the complexities of the current situation, continue to eliminate Russian occupiers. There was so much success earlier in the year. When we go back to January and February, those AWAC planes that got shot down, Ukraine was downing these planes every other day, basically. But then they ran out of air defense missiles and they couldn't do this anymore. So the fact that this Su-25 jet was shot down, perhaps that roaming Patriot system is back on the front lines. And this is great news, because this graph shows you, just for the month of April, how many missiles, ballistic and cruise, were fired at Ukrainian cities, how many Shahed drones, and how many guided bombs. Russia is heavily relying on their aviation to drop these guided bombs in order for their ground forces to advance. So as soon as Ukraine's air defense systems are resupplied, protecting their cities, they're going to get this Patriot system back on the front lines to continue hunting these Russian jets, dropping all these guided bombs. And Russia bombed themselves again. They do this about once a week. Russian aviation accidentally bombed the city of Belgorod, injuring 5 Russian civilians and damaging 30 homes and 10 cars. There is a video online. I'll link it down below. It basically just shows a smoke cloud in the distance, but Russia keeps bombing their own people. Russia issues arrest warrants for President Zelensky, as well as former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. The Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs announced the arrest warrant based on criminal charges, but did not specify what are the criminal charges. I'm honestly surprised Russia hasn't already done this, given that the ICC issued their arrest warrants like a year ago. But this just shows you that Russia is never going to be serious about negotiations. Russia and Putin are never going to hold peace talks with President Zelensky. Their goal is to kill as many Ukrainians as possible, depopulate the regions, annex territory. All Russia wants to do is expand their borders. According to the Institute for the Study of War, Russia is threatening to seize newborn babies if their parents lack Russian citizenship in the occupied territories. So these are the Ukrainian citizens of Zaporizhia, Kherson, Luhansk, and Donetsk. if by the time a mother shows up to a hospital to give birth, if she hasn't already accepted a Russian passport and Russian citizenship, then her baby will be taken from her after she gives birth in one of these hospitals. I struggle to understand how you can get any more evil than this. This is literally the grim fairy tale of Rumpelstiltskin, trying to steal babies. This is a big story you should know about. Gazprom plunges to first annual loss in 20 years as trade with Europe is hit. So here's a chart showing Gazprom's profits. Putin took control of Russia in 1999, put his friend in charge of Russia's monopoly on their oil and gas industry, and the company's been quite profitable for Russia, feeding revenue to the Russian government to support their military. You could see how there's dips. 2014 is when the Saudis flooded the market with oil to disrupt U.S. shale production. Then in 2020, we had COVID, decreased demand for energy, and then spiked in 2021 and 2022. But here we are for the year of 2023, a $7 billion loss. Rather than the profits of this Russian oil company feeding the Russian government, it's now hurting the Russian government. And this is astonishing, and I don't think anyone could have predicted this 2 years ago, that the price for a cubic foot of natural gas would be cheaper today than it was before Russia invaded. If we go back to February of 2022, we're looking at almost $4 a cubic foot for natural gas. It then spiked to almost 10 that summer. But it's half the price it was prior to Russia's invasion. Global supply chains have normalized, rearranged. Europe is getting their natural gas from other sources. And Russia is the biggest loser. I can also show you the price of ICE Brent crude, currently at $82 a barrel. There's nothing alarming about this, but I do expect probably this will go up over the summertime. I can also show you the price for Urals oil, currently at $76 a barrel. Russia's oil is a lower quality, so it always trades at a discount to other parts of the world, but we need this to go down. Lower the better. Gazprom is already not profitable due to sanctions. Because of sanctions and lack of expertise, technicians and engineers coming to Russia to help them, given the vast resources that Russia has, they can't even get their oil company to be profitable. Let's now check in on everyone's favorite congressperson, Marjorie Taylor Green. I know from my last update video, a lot of you went to St. Javelin's website and ordered this MUGA hat that she endorsed. Marjorie Taylor Green's MUGA tactic backfires. So the good news I have for you is a very serious candidate is opposing her in the November election. This man right here is a retired brigadier general, and his name is Shawn Harris. He is choosing to run against Marjorie in her home district in Georgia. So if you're American and you want to see Marjorie Taylor Green defeated, then please go follow this man, Shawn Harris, on his social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you want to go to his website, Shawn Harris for Georgia, you can become a supporter or give him a donation. It's up to you. And Georgia's 14th district is very Republican. It's a plus 22 R district. So Shawn has a uphill battle, but he's a very serious candidate. 40 years experience in the United States military, a retired general. He has my support, and I just wanted to give him a quick shout out in today's video. President Zelensky says, stop ignoring struggles for freedom in Georgia and Belarus. Ignoring democratic anti-Russian movements in Georgia and Belarus is unworthy of you and the cause you represent. Time to adjust your stance. So these protests in Georgia are still going on. The people are unhappy with their government, just rubber stamping and endorsing whatever the Kremlin wants them to do in their own country. So I'm with the protesters. I'm committed to their cause now. The more I learn about the Georgian people, the more I really appreciate them. So I've got a couple clips for you. The first one is a woman trying to speak to the police, not to crack down on them, not to hurt them, not to abuse them. History is happening now. Here's another clip I want to share. This is inside the Georgian Opera House in Tbilisi. And the people of the audience spontaneously broke out into anti-Russian chants. Looking back on Russia's invasion of Georgia in 2008, it's painfully obvious that the West failed the people of Georgia. If the West had had a stronger response, tougher sanctions, severing relations with Russia until they withdrew from Georgian territory, then I think the trajectory, the fate of the people of Belarus, Ukraine, and Moldova would be in a much better position today. There were opportunities the last 20 years to prevent this full-scale invasion, but instead our political leaders chose this path of appeasement every single time, hoping Putin wouldn't do it. And even with Putin getting out everything he wanted at every step from the West, he still committed to this full-scale invasion. I apologize to the people of Georgia. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. The United Kingdom announced they will be pledging £3 billion worth of military aid to Ukraine every year for as long as it takes. This number, of course, doesn't include humanitarian or financial aid, but thank you so much to the people of the UK. This is incredible news, but Sky News confirms that David Cameron, the Foreign Affairs Minister, says that Ukraine can use UK-supplied weapons inside of Russian territory. This means Ukraine can use British Storm Shadow cruise missiles to attack valid military targets inside of Russia. Smaller countries such as Estonia and Finland have already announced this, but given that the UK is a nuclear power, this is a big deal. And I think eventually France will get to this position as well. Final feel-good clip I have for you. It's currently Easter in Ukraine. According to the Orthodox calendar, Easter is on May 5th, but here in the United States it was like a week or two ago. And I just want to share this clip of a Ukrainian woman being kind. We don't have Easter cakes here in the United States, but I'd be willing to try one. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.